So the first day of Warhammer Fest previews is done. There's a whole new god for the Forces of Destruction, and a serious amount of vampires. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today I've just watched the Warhammer Fest Age of Sigmar previews, so I thought I'd just make a short video summarising all the new news. I know I mainly focus on 40k on the channel, but I thought seeing as there's quite so many cool new miniatures coming out, I thought it was worth sharing. You can of course watch the entire show back on Twitch, and there's a Warhammer community article as well, which goes over all the new miniatures in a bit more detail. Otherwise though, I'll just have a quick chat through what they talked about, and take a look at some fancy new models. So first up, I'd say that the biggest news is Broken Realms Kragnos, the new installment in this Age of Sigmar saga, and the biggest preview is this enormous centaur-like god. This chap is Kragnos himself, and he's basically an enormous beast on the side of the Forces of Destruction, leading everything from Uruks to Ogres in a great tide of violence against the Forces of Order. He's very much built to be a new major character in Age of Sigmar, punching on the same sort of level as Morathi, Be'lakor, or any of the other biggest baddest models around. Apparently his backstory is that he was leader of an ancient race of centaur-like destructive folks, waylaid and trapped by magic, of which the Slann were instrumental, and now he's broken free from his mountain tomb, found the rest of his race dead, and now is determined to bury the mortal realms in a howling tide of violence. Apparently he's a god of earthquakes, supposedly represented in-game by dealing a whole bunch of mortal wounds on the charge, and he can be used equally with any of the Forces of Destruction, and he has some synergy with all of them. In addition, that Broken Realms Kragnos game will have the new Slaanesh Demon Twins there, the Sylvaneth Warsong Revenant and a new datasheet for Alariel, that Witch Hunter father and daughter miniatures, and the new miniature for Lord Croak. As for the miniature himself, he's absolutely enormous, very much on the same sort of scale as the models that we've already talked about. I certainly think they've done well to make him look like a savage, untamed force of destruction, and perhaps deliberately they've made his face look incredibly ugly indeed. Maybe could have made him a little bit more menacing and a touch less goofy perhaps, but whatever the case, he's certainly not someone who I'd want to try and fight in one-to-one combat. I quite like the way that his hooves seem to have shattered that great big rock that he's standing on, kind of fitting for a god of earthquakes. Otherwise, the major news was a whole bunch of miniatures for the Soulblight Gravelord vampires, the first one of which is this Vengorian Lord, which is a dual kit which can also be assembled as Lorca, a special character who shares the same sort of features, a normalish looking vampire torso, on top of some sort of weird half-bat, half-dragon monstrosity, sort of like some sort of vampire centaur type thing with leathery wings on either side. Very disturbing in half-vampire, half some sort of bat-dragon creature. Apparently these Vengorian Lords will be available to all vampire dynasties. This is a quick look at the alternative build for the model, Lorca. She's very much along the same theme, though is maybe going for a bit more of the Imperious Regal aesthetic, more sort of a vampire knight in armour as opposed to just some sort of a depraved beast. In any case, I think they look pretty intimidating and fit the aesthetic of the faction really well. Next up we have Belladamma Volga, first of the Vikos, and she's about the most wolfy themed vampire that you can possibly get. Not only does she ride a wolf and have a wolf standing next to her, but also she seems to be part wolf herself with those feet protruding from beneath her robe, and also she has the power to turn mortals into wolves as well. So I think that even the Space Wolves might be looking on at her with envy. A pretty cool and dynamically posed character this one. I see that the scenic rocks on bases do seem to be getting to a pretty ridiculous proportion with this lady. I really quite like the sculpts on the wolves here, they look thoroughly menacing. Next up we have the Vampire Radikar, the one from Cursed City. They did very briefly mention Cursed City in the video chat, breaking Games Workshop's complete silence on it since the box appeared and then mysteriously disappeared straight away. In any case, it does seem that he's survived the Cursed City encounter. It would appear that he might have been cast out of the city, but it doesn't really seem to have hampered him all that much. He's returned bigger, stronger and badder, maybe looking a bit more of a bestial feral monster than he was before, as opposed to maybe a bit more under control as he was in the Cursed City box. This one apparently represents him roaming the realm of Shish, endlessly plotting his revenge on the people who defied him. He seems to have acquired a couple of little hangers-on as well, some little gremlin helper type things with swords. Finally, last but by no means least, is a new resculpt on the Direwolves, a venerable Warhammer Fantasy kit, and one that I have seen used in 40k a fair bit, say to represent Fleshhounds. It looks like quite an impressive release to be honest, a full box of 10 of these guys. They're looking the epitome of half-undead wolves, absolutely filled with menace. I quite like their glowing green eyes as they're being painted here. I certainly feel that these could be an interesting kit to repurpose for many different uses. I'm sure they could represent anything from Chimerae for Drukhari, to Fleshhounds for Khorne, or maybe even some darker and more twisted Fenrisian wolves. The other reveal that they did put in between the two major ones was a new mobile game on the way for Age of Sigmar called Soul Arena, though to be honest I think even on the preview they seemed a little bit underwhelmed by it, and it was quite funny to try and watch them muster any kind of enthusiasm. Who really knows, as you can't really tell till you've played a game like this, but I can't imagine it looks massively different to the other mobile games like it. Apparently you select a small force of Age of Sigmar things for battle, arrange them on the board in a formation, and then they auto-fight against an opponent's forces. I'm sure some people will play it, but it's hardly the thing that most people tuned into Warhammer Fest to see. So anyway, plenty of interesting stuff for the Mortal Realms here. I'll most certainly be covering the Warhammer 40k stuff when it comes out tomorrow. Look forward to hearing all your thoughts and ideas from Age of Sigmar players, or any predictions for what we're going to see for 40k. Pretty cool of Games Workshop to give us an entire week where we're going to see new and exciting stuff every day. If you'd like to see more videos like this, feel free to check back to Warspets Tactics later or subscribe to the channel. I do always try and cover Games Workshop's releases and reviews as soon as they come out. If you have been enjoying all the content lately, I would just like to mention the channel's Patreon page, which you can find down in the video description. It is what allows me the time to keep on making all these videos quite so regularly, so if you are enjoying a lot, any support is massively appreciated. There are plenty of rewards for channel backers, so feel free to check it out down in the video description if you'd like to see more. In any case, a really big thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.